Hello, I'm Eszylfie Taylor, founder and creator of the Taylor Method and president of Taylor Insurance and Financial Services. I've created the Taylor Method, and the first pillar of the Taylor Method is the approach. What do I say to get in front of people? So important, right? I love the adage, a broken clock is right twice a day. It doesn't matter what company you work for. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how well you know the products. If people do not know, like, and trust you, they are not doing business. So I want to talk to you about the ways that you can engage people. First, you have referrals. Referrals are the lifeblood of my business. I think they're great because you have qualified name flow, and you'll find that people typically hang around those of a comparable socioeconomic level, right? And what do I mean by that? Broke people hang out with broke people. Rich people hang out with rich people. So if you can create a book of business, if you can surround yourself with people that are successful, they will refer you to other successful people. You have networking events. Networking events are great. Now, I live by the adage that givers get. It's common that in networking groups, we've got a pocket full of business cards and we're handing them out, hoping, right, that people will engage us and want to do business with us. I take a different approach. Rather than asking, right, what everyone can do for me, I ask what I can do for other people, right? Who can I introduce you to? How can I help you grow your business? And in turn, people will say, well, okay, who can I introduce you to? How can I help you grow your business? So I always want to create goodwill in the community with other centers of influence. So important. To that end, centers of influence. Centers of influence can be people like attorneys, CPAs, other professionals in your market. They don't really even have to have a professional designation. They just need to be important. You know, that person that they're hosting all the parties, right? They're setting up all the travel plans, that person that people really gravitate to and listen to. If you can get that person in your corner as an advocate, it goes a long way in creating new name flow. Personal observation. Personal observation is really near and dear to my heart, in that oftentimes we make the mistake of thinking when I'm in my suit and tie, or when I'm in my dress, or when I'm in my office, I'm working. You are working anytime you are building a relationship with people, right? So whether it be hanging out with your kids, family, friends, if you're in a community where you are developing relationships with other people and able to enhance, right, your relationship and build an affinity with one another, you're working, because that's the key. Cold calls are there, right? You can pick up the phone and you can call people you don't know, or, buy leads and things like that. I don't really subscribe to that, again, because if people do not know, like, and trust you, they're not doing business. Now, again, right, there's many a person who's come up in this business cold calling and cold canvassing. I've done it once and I didn't enjoy it, so I vowed never to do it again. I think if you do a good job of getting referrals from existing clients and prospects, right, going to networking functions, building a goodwill in your community, developing centers of influence, and also being engaging as you're out and about in public, I don't think you'll ever need to engage in cold calls, and I don't think you're ever going to need to purchase leads, right? Again, anything could work. There's more than one way to skin a cat, if you will, but I do not think that they're the most efficient use of your time. I can schedule 4 appointments making 5 or 6 calls to referrals. How long would it take me? How long would it take you to schedule 4 appointments if you were just cold calling? You'd literally have to make hundreds of calls perhaps to do that. So again, most efficient use of your time is to engage in relationship building activities with people, again, that know, like, and trust you and can help, further your influence. The value of scheduled appointments, so important. Oftentimes we don't think and we don't realize how valuable our appointments really are. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the total revenue you made in your business in the last 30 days, whatever that number is. Then I want you to divide that by the number of scheduled appointments. And I want you to count everything: openers, closers. I want you to count people that rescheduled or canceled altogether. And when you do that, you're going to come up with a number. When I did this in my practice years ago, my number was $832. Every single time I scheduled an appointment, it was worth $832 to me. Now, perhaps some of your numbers are lower than that. Maybe some of your numbers are higher than that. But when you think about that, just for illustration's sake, let's just assume I would give you $200 every time you scheduled an appointment, whether your client showed up or not. How many appointments would you schedule in a day? probably couldn't keep you off the phone, could I? And that is really what we do. We are in the business of building relationships with people. We are in the business of booking appointments, right? Make no mistake about it. Anytime I'm coaching a new advisor and they say, well, what do I tell people that I do for a living? I tell them you book appointments, right? Because that's the key. Name flow is the lifeblood of our business. And so important because every time you get a new client, you just lost your best prospect. You must replace them. Every day when someone asks me how I'm doing, every single day I tell them it's the best day of my life, right? It is, right? I woke up this morning. That was a great start. I really believe in the power of positive thought and manifestation. Those that think they can do something and those that think they cannot do something are both usually right. So here's my charge to you. Win the day. Focus on today. Richard A. Vogel said the most important time in life is not the past nor the future, it is the now. So here's what I want you to think about. When people ask me, Eszylfie, do you do annual plans? I say, no. They say, oh, you must do quarterly plans. Monthly plans? Nope. Weekly plans? Nope. I just want to win the day. So here's how you win the day. I want you to take your annual revenue goal, whatever that is, right? 100,000, 200,000, 2 million, doesn't matter, whatever that is, right? And I want you to take that number and divide it by 200, assuming you're gonna work 200 days a year. You're gonna take weekends off, holidays off, right? Friends and family time, but you're gonna work 200 days a year, right? When you do that, you're gonna come up with a number. My revenue goal is $3 million. So when I divide that into 200, I come up with $15,000 a day. $15,000 a day. That is my daily revenue goal. So quite simply, I want to schedule at least 3 appointments every single day, with each one of those 3 being a potential 15K outcome or better, right? That's it, right? That's what I do. Now, I know what some of you are doing, right? You're sitting there thinking, no way. You make $15,000 a day. Every single day you make $15,000 a day. And the God honest answer is no, I don't make $15,000 every single day. Some days I make 100,000. Some days I make 20, some days I make 5, some days I make nothing. But the objective is the same every single day. A minimum of 3 appointments every day, with each one being a potential 15K outcome or better. And I've learned I don't get too high in the highs and I don't get too low in the lows. If I have a $50,000 day, I'm back at work tomorrow. If a $50,000 deal falls apart, I'm still at it, right? I have learned to detach myself from the outcome and engage and trust the process. Win the day. There are 4 personality types. One thing that I realized, and it was a life changer, a game changer for me in the midst of my career, is that it really doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what I want. It doesn't matter what I would do, right? It's not my life. It's not my money. I really need to be in tune with who I'm speaking to and what moves them. So it's super important that you understand the 4 personality types and who you're speaking to. You've got the boss, the driver. You know that person. Everything's their idea, right? Chest puffed out. You can't tell them to do anything, right? So you get in a battle with this person, it's going to be a clash of the titans, right? So again, in this person, I'm just going to say, hey, everything's your idea. I'm sure I don't need to tell you, Mr. Prospect, that you need more insurance, right? I'm sure, Mr. Prospect, that you realize there's a deficiency in your retirement plan. I don't need to tell you that. You probably already know you need to put away more money. Oh, yeah, of course I know these things, right? That's the boss. That's the driver. That's the brain. You know the brain, the analytical. I was looking at the illustration on page 12 in the 4th paragraph, 3rd line. It says, and you're like, oh my goodness, right? So know who you're speaking to, right? Know who you're speaking to. For me, with this person, less is more. You put 4 20-page documents in front of this person, please believe they're going to read all of them, right? So with this person, less is more. I really want to get into the meat. What do they really want to accomplish? What do they really need? And then dive in and show that solution alone, right? Know who you're talking to. The feeler. You know the feeler. Everything is by emotions. And you could tell, right? How does this make you feel? Can you imagine that? What do you think, right? And it's that feeling that gets them to move. And so I'm going to sell them in a manner where, hey, imagine again, if you didn't come home tomorrow, what would happen to your family, right? How does that make you feel, right? Retirement planning. You know, imagine sitting on a beach, right? With your spouse, right? No, not a care in the world. All your bills are covered. Your money is making money for you. You're working, peace of mind, true financial security. What would that make you feel like, right? And then lastly, you've got the drifter, you've got the amiable person. And this actually is an interesting one. Oftentimes people think this is the easiest person to sell, the amiable person. Why? Because anything you say, they say, okay, right? You should buy insurance. Okay. You should invest your money. Okay. You should buy long-term care. Okay. And you're like, this is great, right? But then you find this is the same person 3 months later, right? You open up your computer and you've got a negative charge in your ledger. You say, well, what's going on? This commission reversal, what happened? And you call the client and say, well, what's going on? They say, oh, I canceled my plans. Well, why'd you cancel your plans? Well, my uncle said that I'm paying too much for insurance. I don't need to pay $500 a month for insurance. His insurance is only $80, right? You go, your uncle, what does your uncle do? Well, you know, my uncle, he's a mechanic. You know, he's really smart, successful, right? You're like, wow. And then you go back and try to do what you should have done in the beginning. Really explain the value proposition and why you're making the recommendations you're making. And it's too late. You want to know why? Because an amiable person doesn't want conflict, right? So they don't want to upset you, right? They don't want to go against you, and they don't want to go against their uncle. So you know what they'll do? Nothing. So the amiable person, the drifter, that's the one that I really make sure understands the value proposition and then I take extra time with. So know who you're speaking to. Don't have a bias and say, this is who I am, this is how I sell, and this is what I'm going to do. Really contour your sales, really contour your approach to the person you're speaking to, and you'll find your sales engagements far more enjoyable, far less in the way of objections. There are several things you need to possess to be successful that require no talent. Oftentimes people make a lot of your natural market or your speaking ability or charisma. Doesn't really matter as much as these things. Well, what do you mean, Eszylfie? Things like being on time, your body language, your passion, your energy, your work ethic, your attitude, being prepared, effort, being coachable, and doing extra. You see, my friends, these things are all a choice. They are all a choice. Again, in my mind, success has less to do with what you possess and more about what you believe and most importantly, what you are willing to do. Everybody wants to be successful until they see what it takes. So I've shared a lot of information with you guys today. The approach, the first pillar of the Taylor method, so important, right? We want to keep that spigot full. We want to keep those at-bats, right? This business is like the game of baseball, right? When you think about it, a baseball player who bats 300 for the season will probably be an all-star. Heck, if you bat 300 for your career, you'll probably make it to the Hall of Fame, right? But when you think about it, in actuality, what does that mean? That means that person gets up to bat 10 times and gets 3 hits. They fail 70% of the time. You mean to tell me somebody who fails 70% of the time is an all-star, is an all-time great? Yes. And the same is true in this business. Even me, I don't bat 1,000, right? 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, that's good for me, right? I wish that was true when I was in school. I wish I could have gone home when I was in school and said, hey, Mom, I got a 30% on my test today, right? Like, you proud of me, right? Not so much. But in this industry, in this business, that is our reality, so enjoy. So any questions that you guys have as it relates to the approach and how I get in front of people and keep my calendar full, I'm more than open to help and provide any insights that